Hi there, and welcome to the Knit and Grace Knitting Podcast. This is episode 1. Hi there, and welcome back if you are a returning viewer. If you are new here, welcome. Thank you for joining me. My name is Mia, and I am the maker behind Knit and Grace. And if you're a returning viewer, you're probably a little confused as to why all of a sudden I'm introducing myself as the Knit and Grace Knitting Podcast. But yeah, I think as I spoke to in my last video, which I'll link up above, I just had a little bit of a knit and chat. I've been thinking about what I wanted to do with this channel, and I kind of wanted to make it a little bit more of a formalized knitting podcast, or formalize the knitting podcast episodes and then, sort of expand from there with regard to the additional content that I put out. So just a way for me to really identify the difference between what is a podcast episode versus what is a knit and chat or a journal episode. And that way, people can sort of watch what they would like to watch, and then, everything else, they can take it or leave it. And I hope that you enjoy all of the content that I put out, but definitely understand that not everyone enjoys all of the content that maybe I put out when it comes to like sewing and other crafts and things like that. So I wanted to make sure that I differentiate my monthly podcast episodes from all of the other episodes that I put out. A little bit of other things to note that will probably be different is I'm hoping to really expand my horizons when it comes to the content that I put out. I did initially start this channel to be more of like a journal type channel, and definitely fell into the knitting podcast episodes, which I definitely enjoy creating. But I think that I can be a little bit more creative with how I put that content out, and so I hope that you stick around. I'll probably iron things out over the next couple months, especially since this kind of was a little bit of a last minute thing in terms of I didn't really plan for this at the beginning of August, so I don't have as much content as I would like to have for the monthly podcast episodes, but I'm hoping that, in the coming months, the podcasts will be a little bit meatier with regard to sort of like vlog style content and things like that. So I guess that is a brief introduction for anyone who is new here. Again, my name is Mia. I live in northern New Jersey, about 30 to 35 minutes outside of New York City, with my husband and our 2 cats, Penny and Chrissy. And yeah, I get up to all sorts of crafting, primarily knitting, as this channel is called Knit and Grace, but I do a little bit of, or a lot of sewing. I just started embroidering, and I just like to, all around DIY things. So, yeah, I guess that is all for the intro. In terms of what I'm wearing, today I am wearing, I didn't actually make this. This is a wearable toile. of the Mina dress, or in this case, I'm wearing the actual top. Let me see if I can stand up and show you all. So this is what it looks like. And it's just a peplum top. And I'm sorry if you can hear my cat outside of the door making her presence known. But this is a wearable toile that I made of the Mina dress, and I do plan on making the actual dress, but I wanted to make the top version just to make sure that I ironed out any fit issues, and I really didn't have any major fit issues with this one. I'm gonna adjust the shoulders a tiny bit when I make the final project, but this is pretty good for me. I don't recall the size that I made, but I will enter that information here on the screen. And I'm not sure if I mentioned, this is the Mina dress by Seamwork. And so yeah, this was a little wearable toile that I made of this dress, and it is a top as well. So I made the top version for my toile at the beginning of the summer. So now we will get into the first segment, which is finished objects. Okay, so today I actually have 2.5 finished objects to show you. Initially, I only planned on showing 1.5 finished objects, but this episode is actually going out a little bit later than I typically put out my podcast episodes. It's usually the first Sunday of every month. But if you've been following me on Instagram, you know that I had a little bit of a debacle when I was blocking one of my recent FOs, and I just really wasn't in the headspace earlier in later in the week, early in the weekend, to film the episode to go up on time on Sunday. So you all are getting this a little bit late. I'm filming this on Labor Day, and the day is quite cloudy and it is about to storm, so hopefully we don't lose too much light. So I wanted to sit down and record this episode. But the first project that I have to show is a half finished object, and this is the they're called the Sunset Glow socks by Anya Human of Woolen Garden, and this is a test knit that I did for Anya. I test knit the second size, so let me see if you can see the color work there. It is a color work sock. And for these socks, I used Woolen Twine, Corriedale sock base. I love Eula's yarn. And the actual yarn that I used for this one was the color Porridge, which is more of a yellowy color. And unfortunately, this sock was blocking with the other top that I was blocking that had some sort of dye transfer, and so the socks actually did get a little bit dyed. So it's not as clear in terms of the contrast of the color work. It was much more clear because this was more of like a really soft beige color. But yeah, in terms of the sock, it's a color work sock. You can make it with either 2, 3, or 4 colors. I knit the second size, which is a 64 stitch sock, which is my usual size. I knit the main part of the sock using size 1 or 2.5 millimeter needles, which again is my usual size. And then for the color work, I did have to go up quite a bit to a US 2, which is 2.75. And I also needed to turn the sock inside out in order to be able to get the color work to be stretchy. And so again, as I mentioned, this is a test knit, and I think that us testers were able to work out a lot of the kinks. But one of the main issues with the sock is that Anya actually has quite long floats in some of the rounds, and so that caused a lot of issues with regard to fit, especially I am someone who has quite a high arch, so I think I ripped it back 3 times before I was actually able to finally get a good workable gauge. But then once I figured out my needle, the going inside out. Everything worked out great. And so that is something that she's going to note in the pattern in terms of instructions for how to make sure your color work gauge is on point. Some other test knitters, what they did was actually they increased, so this is an 8-stitch increase, so they just worked the cuff, they increased right before for an extra 8, and then at the bottom they decreased those 8, and then kind of went from there, and they were able to have success doing that as well. I didn't have to do that. Just once I figured out that I just had to sort of knit it inside out, I was able to get gauge and work that up. So yeah, so this is a really lovely pattern. I really enjoyed knitting it. It was a little bit difficult, I will say, of a test knit process, but once I got my gauge ironed out, everything went smoothly. These are the first color work socks that I have ever made, so I'm quite proud of myself. Definitely a lot of learning moments with regard to small circumference color work, especially because I don't knit on small circumference needles. I actually use DPNs, so had to sort of figure that process out. But really excited to get the second sock cast on so I can finish these. But in terms of the test itself, I did complete the test just because we were only obligated to finish the first sock. I will be finishing the second sock shortly. And I think that she's planning on releasing this pattern later this month, but in any case, I'll link to my Ravelry page below so that when the pattern goes live, you can have access to it. So next up is the Summer Ella by Lena Home Samso. And so I'm pretty sure my last podcast episode, I had completed the yoke on this one. And so now it is actually completely finished. And so that's what it's looking like. And actually in my knit and chat, this is what I was knitting on. And so there it is. So yeah, about this project, Summer Ella by Lena Home Samso. It is not a size inclusive pattern. However, it is a pattern that I already had in my pattern library, so that's kind of why I chose to knit it again. I was looking to knit a sort of an elbow length winter top with a botanical yoke for this specific yarn, which is why I chose to re-knit this. I did originally knit this for my mother. And so yeah, so I knit the 4th size, which is 44-inch bust with 0 ease. I followed the instructions for the body, for the smallest size actually for the body, and I apologize, mohair and yarn fibers. So that hits me right at the top of, or right at my hip bone, so that it'll be perfect for slacks. And so I did knit this intending this to be a work top. And then I knit the sleeves, and I haven't woven in my ends, so they're peeking through here, but I knit the sleeves longer than the pattern. The pattern actually has a short sleeve, and I believe you knit the sleeve to 3 inches and then you do the ribbing, and I knit my sleeve to 5 inches and then I did the ribbing. So those were my modifications, and my modifications are also listed on my Ravelry page, but I used Onarakier Nutiden in the color Vanessa for this one, and I knit the main body in US 6, which are 4mm needles, and the ribbing on US 4, which are 3.5mm needles. And I held Nutiden double for this. So I got gauge. I love the project. I still need to take some FO pictures of this one, which hopefully I'll be able to do so soon. And it's getting quite dark, so we'll see how well you all are able to see all of the different yarn colors. But the last FO that I have, which was not intended to be an FO for the podcast, but again, since I'm filming this later, it is an FO for the podcast, is my test knit for Haley of Ozetta, and it is the Miles tee. And so this is what it looks like. This is the front of the tee, so it is a drop shoulder construction, as you can see here. Let's see. So it's drop shoulder, and it has this really pretty scalloped hem, like a high-low hem. And then the best part is the increased detail on the back is an eyelet. And so I'll insert some FO shots that I just took this afternoon of me wearing this, and I already am in love. I knit the 6th size, so I believe that's a 50.5-inch bust. And again, my bust is 44 inches to 46 inches depending on my undergarments. I got gauge on the recommended needle in the round, which is US 4 or 3.5 millimeter. But I am someone who's actually quite a loose purler. So if you're familiar with a drop shoulder construction, this is very, vanilla drop shoulder construction. It's just has a little extra detail here of how she does the increases that give you this eyelet detail. But in terms of, it's your traditional drop shoulder construction where you start with the back and then you cast on the shoulders, or you pick up the shoulders and then you cast on your neck, and you sort of, work down and join everything in the round. So nothing different there. So what I did was, for any parts of the pattern that I was knitting back and forth, so essentially, from the neck down to the joining, I knit on US 3s, so 3.25 millimeter, and the same thing, I still have one end in here that I didn't realize I didn't weave in until after I took pictures. But so my bottom hem as well, this is created by doing short row shaping. So when I was doing the short row shaping back and forth, I also used the US 3s, but any time that I was knitting in the round, I used US 4s, which is the needle that the pattern calls for. And again, that's just because I am a loose purler, so when I knit back and forth, I just, just to make sure there's a consistency in the gauge, that's what I did there. And then because I was knitting mine, and she designed this pattern using Wool Dreamers, 100% wool yarn. So what I did, because I'm using Barocco Remix Light, I'm not sure if I mentioned that. So I'm using Barocco Remix Light in the colorway Almond, and this is a recycled yarn, but it's mostly cotton linen, and it does have some acrylic in there, and maybe even a touch of silk, if I remember correctly. But because it's a mainly cotton acrylic yarn, it's not going to have as much, springiness as a 100% wool. So what I did for my ribbing is I actually went down to a 3 millimeter needle, which is a 2.5, a US 2.5. So quite the combination of needles that I used here. But of course, all that information is going to be in my Ravelry page. Knit the pattern as it was called for in terms of the length and everything, with the exception of the sleeves. I did shorten the sleeves by 1 inch, but in terms of the body length, everything else is exactly as the pattern calls for. And the fun thing about this is that I actually, this is going to be my first official making journal on this channel, or I guess since the rebrand of this channel. And I have filmed a little video of the making process of this beautiful tee, as well as I did film a little bit of a knit and chat with regard to testing and what it is to be a tester, how to get testing opportunities and things like that. So I filmed a little video, which will be my second video this month, which will go out once this pattern is live. So I'm really excited to share that with you all. And I hope that that's something that you look forward to viewing as well. So I've been talking for quite a while, so I guess next up we will move on to the WIPs, or works in progress. Okay, so I have two whips to share with you today. One is a long-term whip, the other one is a new whip, and I have them both in these Kato bags that I made for myself. I think they're by Can Do Crafts, and so these are the large size. I'll link the pattern below. This one is just a little like autumn print that I got fat quarters of at Joann's for this one, and then this one I made patching up using patchwork style of all of the dresses and things that I actually made last summer. So that's this one. But I'll show you this one first, which I am so excited. I think that I hit all of my goals from my last podcast, this podcast, which I don't think that ever happens. But this is, and I have to be careful here because I did take the needles off of the cord because I was using them. But this is the completed first triangle of my half and half shawl. So again, I have to be careful here. It's still, I'll hold it this way, but hopefully you can see it this way. So this is just the first half of my half and half triangles wrap. I'm sure you all have seen it. Everyone is knitting this. It has taken the knitting community by storm over the last couple years. And I actually was inspired to knit this by Stacy of Stress Knits Yarn. And she has a really great tutorial video if you're interested in knitting this one. I'll link it down below. And then, you know, since then, I think, you know, Mega of Skeins and Dreams just finished hers. Casey of Young Folk Knits is casting hers on. And I think Inga, also of Knitting Traditions, has just finished hers. I mean, everyone has finished these, so I don't even want, I'll go on, and this podcast will never end if I talk about everyone who's knitting or recently finished one of these. But I actually am not knitting mine in linen quill. I am knitting mine in Life in the Long Grass Hinterland. And this is yarn that I picked up earlier in the year when we went to visit our grandparents on Hilton Head Island. We always stay in Savannah when we go down, which is just a 45 minutes drive away from them. And so I like to visit the local yarn shop in Savannah whenever I'm in the area. And so I picked this beautiful yarn up. And she has just the most beautiful things. She has like a lot of rustic yarns, a lot of non-superwash, which is great. And so when I saw this yarn, I just fell in love. And so again, this Life in the Long Grass Hinterland, it is a BFL and Gotland blend. So I think it's 75% BFL, 25% Gotland. And it is naturally dyed in Ireland. So it's just beautiful. And so this color is the color Madder Rubio for my first triangle. And so I'm all done here, and now I'm just going to be casting on or joining the second color, which I will show you all in the acquisitions portion of today's episode. But yeah, this is a long-term project. I have no intentions of really setting a goal as to how much on this I'm going to knit over the next month. But I did have a goal just because I was so close to the end of finishing up the first triangle for this month, which I actually did. So that's that. And then the second whip that I have to show you is a recent cast on. I think I cast this on Friday actually, or Thursday or Friday. And this is a pre-knit. Actually, just realized I didn't give you any of the details on my half and half triangles wrap other than the yarn. On the wrap itself, I am making the large size, which I believe is a 260 stitch count cast on, and I am using the US 3s that the pattern calls for. And so the reason why the wrap doesn't have the cord doesn't have the needles on it is because, you know, as I mentioned with the Miles tee, I was also using the US3s to knit the back and forth section. So I had to borrow those temporarily to finish the Miles tee, and now I'll be able to put those back on the half and half wrap. So yes, okay. Now I will show you the second whip. And it is a very new whip, and it is, you know, I can't really show you much. It doesn't look like much, but this is actually a pre-knit for Albina McLaughlin of an upcoming pattern that's going to be released in October called the Saglan Pullover. And so I will link to her, I think she has an Instagram post on this pullover, but essentially the way that she does her pre-knit, she doesn't have test knits really. All of her patterns are tech edited and completely like they've had samples knit up. So really what she does is she just wants people to start knitting the project, you know, so if there are projects live on Ravelry and, you know, ideally you would finish it, but you're not obligated to actually finish the project. You're only obligated to put one work in progress photo up on Ravelry. So that is what I'm working on. This one is really cool because it has a really interesting construction where it's like a combo between a saddle shoulder and a raglan shoulder, so hence Saglan. And so it's good for people like I personally have very rounded shoulders, so it's good for people who are either narrowed shoulders or have rounded shoulder, and so it helps for it to fit a lot more like sort of a tailored sweater would. And so that's what drew me to this pattern, because I'd actually been planning on making the Versal, which is another one of her patterns, for a while, and I may even have it in my library. But this one is essentially like a take on that pattern, the Versal pattern, just changing up the shoulder shaping to make it a little bit more flattering for people who have either rounded shoulders or more narrowed shoulders. So I'm just started. What I'll probably do with this one is once I join for the body, I'll knit a couple inches and then I will cast on for the neck. I plan to make mine a turtleneck. And I plan to make mine, and what I like about her patterns is she has many options for how you can, you know, customize the pattern. So usually you can change up the neckline, you can change up the body shaping. A lot of her patterns are actually unisex as well. This is going to be a unisex pattern. So she even gives you instructions on how to fit it to a male body versus a female body, which I think is great and makes her patterns extremely versatile. So yeah, that's what this one is. I am knitting the 6th size, which again I believe is a 50 inch. It's either, I think it's 50 inch. I am using US 7s or 4.5 millimeter needles for my main needle, and then which is the gauge needle that she calls for. So I did get gauge on the needle, recommended needle size, and then the ribbing and all of that will be done on US 5s, which are 3.75 millimeter. And again, I'm knitting I'm knitting this up in Nutiden. And this is the color Roa. So let me get a little closer. And it is one of the colors that they released for Knut's 60th birthday, and this is an undyed natural colorway, and so it's just this really rich gray color, and it has, you know, flecks of white. It looks it looks very tweedy, and it has a bit of a halo. So I'm just like really excited to have just a basic, you know, not necessarily black, but this is a very dark gray pullover turtleneck that I can just comfy myself up in all winter long and wear to the outfit and still look very smart with a pair of socks, but then I can dress it down with some jeans or, you know, some leggings on the weekend. So I am planning on making a boxier fit, so I'm not going to have any shaping, but I am going to sort of, I'll try it on and lengthen the body to a point where I feel like I can wear it with socks, or I can wear it, you know, on the weekend out and about. So that is my second whip for the month. And yeah, that's all I have for whips. I guess we can move on to some acquisitions. So for acquisitions, it's kind of the same thing as FOs. I was not planning on having as many acquisitions, but because I'm filming this a lot later, a few things that I ordered at the end of August actually made their way to me. So the acquisition section is going to be a little long this episode, but I will start with my Nutiden order. And so I did place a Nutiden order for the August collection, and I did go a little crazy. And yeah, I mean, I just bought a lot of yarn, which, you know, I have been seeing the September collection, and so far so good. I'm very happy with what I have, and I'm very happy that nothing is calling to me, so I'm probably not going to order from the September collection. And plus, I just have way too much yarn, and we have some financial obligations coming up that I really kind of have to tighten up my yarn spending, especially since we are going to Rhinebeck, so I want to make sure that I spend responsibly. But I did place quite a large order with Nutiden. So the first color that I'm going to show you is that color, which I just showed you for the Saglan Pullover. It's the Vroa. And so again, it's an undyed natural gray. It's a dark gray. And this one was not part of the August collection. This was just a leftover that they had. And when they released this for Knut's birthday, it really called to me, and I really wanted to get it. But I had just ordered, I think, the May collection. So they kind of released them very quickly, one right after another. And I was just like, you know what, if it sticks around for a while, I'll figure it out. And then, you know, when they had, I think they had a sale in July. Yes, because in July I ordered Vanessa, and that was the only one that called to me. And same, I was like, they still offered Vroa, but I was like, at that point, I still don't need it. And then ultimately in this collection, when, you know, it was kind of clear that they were down to the wire in terms of how much they had, I prioritized getting this colorway. The other colorways, let me get them. One of the actual colorways for the August selection that I got was another natural, and it's their natural white called Duvkula. So that's what it looks like. It's just a natural undyed white, and it's actually quite thick. So I'm actually planning on knitting this up single-stranded, and I'm planning on making a shawl out of it. So I'm really excited for that. And then another color that I'm pretty sure this one was from the May collection. And something about the color, I'm like, when I saw it on screen, I was like, oh, okay, that's nice. But nothing really attracted to me to the color, so I was like, okay, you know, it's a nice color. And then when I saw Ellen, who is one of the employees of Onarkier, she did a test knit, which I also participated in for Bella of 100 Acre Wool and of the Yarnvelia pullover. No, Yarnvelia is the color that I used for the pullover. It is the Fields of Gold pullover by Bella of 100 Acre Wool. Ellen knit hers up in Menning, and when I saw the pictures and ultimately Caroline showed off the sweater on one of her podcast episodes, I just absolutely fell in love with the color Menning. And I was like, you know what? Maybe I'll get it. I knew that there was some left over. And then the August collection came out, and I just had other goals for what I wanted, and I was just like, okay, I just don't have, I don't want to place multiple orders. I'm just going to place my one order and hope that Menning survives. And then I always get a pissing posa whenever Caroline puts them out with the Patreon shop update. And I feel like the pissing posa bag was like, Caroline just sent it to me. Like, she knew exactly what I needed. Like, the colors were the colors that I needed some extra of. And of course, it was a pretty good amount of Menning in there. And I was just like, okay, I'm going to have to slide into the regular shop update and get this. And at first I was like hemming and hawing as to whether or not I was going to get it. And ultimately I did get it. And I'm happy that I got it because it ultimately did sell out. And so this is Menning. And so this is actually not a natural brown. This is actually a dyed brown. And it is so beautiful. I mean, the richness of this color is just absolutely insane. And I purchased some Menning as well as part of the regular shop update. And then the last color that I got, this one was a color that they released before I was actually a patron and before I really knew about Nutiden. And so they brought it back because they made a lot of, and I was able to pick up a 300 gram bag, which I was really excited for. And this is Parallel. And so this is a beautiful pink color. And so if you want to sort of know how crazy I am, there is a highlights in my Instagram stories of when I got this. I actually like unbagged it live on my Instagram stories, and I saved it on there if you want to just go check out my ridiculousness when it comes to this yarn. So that was all of my Nutiden. It was a lot. Okay, so the second yarn order that I got for the month is Life in the Long Grass, and I did actually haul this earlier in the year after our Savannah trip, as I did get it when we were down there, but I think I was just like living on a prayer and just hoping that I would only need 3 of each color, because I think Stacy mentioned that she usually only uses 2.5 of each color, so I kind of did the math and I was like, okay, well, I think I can get away with 3 of each color. But really, when you do the math conversion, like the yardage is actually, or the yardage difference is actually quite large. And I did need, you know, if you just do the basic math, you need over 4. So I should have gotten 4 of each color. So I did actually end up running out of the Madder Rubio with just a little bit left to go. And the funny thing is that actually this new hank that I got was the original dye lot, and I think that when I was picking them out, I didn't realize that one of the 3 that I had gotten was slightly off, because I don't actually think that they have dye lots. So there is a little bit of a difference, but it's not actually because of this one. This one's actually the original, or the same as the first 2 skeins that I used. The third skein was slightly different. So yeah, so I got 1 of Madder Rubio, and I got another one because I knew I would need a 4th one of Myrrh, which is the second color that I'm going to use for my half and half triangles wrap. So there we go. Unfortunately, an unintended purchase, but it needed to happen so that I could finish my half and half triangles wrap. And then, in terms of shawls, I think I mentioned this in my knit and chat video, but I think that, you know, we're just a few weeks out from Rhinebeck. I think it's like 6 weeks at this point, and I have not started a Rhinebeck sweater, so there's just no hope that I'm going to finish a Rhinebeck sweater. So I shifted gears when I was actually watching Casey's back episodes of her podcast, and she wore her Vertices Unite shawl. I just absolutely fell in love. So I decided that I'm going to make myself a whole Rhinebeck outfit. I've actually ordered some fabric as well, so I'll probably do a journal episode around that time. And I bought Pearl Soho linen quill on sale. inspired by Casey's Vertices Unite. So these are the colors. I have them all in this basket. And yeah, I got 6 colors. I know the Vertices Unite calls for 5 colorways, but I did get 6 colorways. And so I will show you the ones that I got. Oh, I'll just hold it like this. Okay. So the first one that I got is Pale Oat. So that's just going to be my white. Then I got Kiln Red. Kiln Red. Okay. And then I got, so beautiful, Turmeric Yellow. I think if I make another, well no, when I make another half and half triangles wrap, I'm actually going to use Linen Quill, and I'm pretty sure one of the colors I'm going to use is Turmeric Yellow. Like, how beautiful is that color? This is my color. I love this color. Everything about it. I think that if you all have been around and you saw a lot of my podcast episodes from last year, at the end of last year, the fall, a lot of my clothes were in this. Then I got, is this Peony Pink? No, this is Lychee Pink. So this is a darker pink. Ooh, that would look nice. The light pink I got is Peony Pink. And I mean, I even think like this would be really nice. I probably shouldn't be doing this because now I'm going to want to cast on another half and half triangle wrap before I finish the one that I've got going. And then the color that I'm going to use for the outside. Oh, this is looking a lot more blue on camera than it looks in person. But this is Stillwater Blue. And to me, this looks very gray. It's definitely a blue, but it's definitely like a super, like, it looks more charcoaly gray with a bluish tint in person. On camera, it's actually looking more what I would think would be Stillwater Blue. So those are the colors. I'll hold them up like this. That I'm going to make my Vertices Unite by Stephen West. So yeah, so I'm planning on making this for Rhinebeck as my Rhinebeck project this year, and then I'm going to make a wool frock dress, a long sleeve version for Rhinebeck. So I'm really excited. I've already ordered fabric for that. So that's all with regard to yarn acquisitions. I do have 2 tools that I actually also purchased this month. And so sort of the story behind this is that my ball winder, and I just have like a regular like Knit Picks ball winder. You know, every so often with the plastic ball winders, it's just time to replace it. And it's definitely gotten to the point where it can't really cake up my 100-gram skeins anymore, which pretty much everything that I knit on, if it's not Nutiden, comes in 100-gram skeins. So it's been really difficult to knit up my yarn recently. And I apologize if you heard that sounds like a baby wailing. It's actually my cat. So I'm going to go ahead and let her in. So if you heard that baby wailing, it's not a baby. I don't have a baby. I have a cat baby. This is Penny. Say hi. Say hi. I love you so much. Okay. She's in the room, so she'll probably not make a peep now. But as I was mentioning, my ball winder is on the fritz, so I needed to purchase a new one. And so, as one does, I was influenced by Cece of Stitch Witchcraft, who I'm really great friends with over on Instagram, and we have a lot of laughs. But she has the Lykke ball winder and Swift set that she's featured on her Instagram channel, and also her Instagram account, and also on her YouTube channel. She has a few letters up. And so I decided I was going to splurge and get myself a new ball winder and Swift. So the Swift that I had was kind of like an older, like it's like a T Swift that just stands on the table. It's not like an umbrella Swift. So I actually got the matching ball winder and Swift set from Lykke. Okay, so I ordered these on Thread and Maple. And I got the Indian rosewood. So I think it's the Indian rosewood, which is the darker wood, and I forget which the other wood, it might be walnut or something, which is a lighter wood. So this is the Swift, which is beautiful. And I'll insert some footage of it in action, of course. And then I got the ball winder, which... here it is. And so it does come with a clamp, so it does clamp to your table, so you can, you know, it doesn't go anywhere when you're winding your balls, and it just works like so. So yeah, so I've really been enjoying these so far. I did ball up my, one of my skeins or hanks of Hinterland so that I can get started on the second triangle for my half and half wrap, and it just like worked like a dream. So I think that pretty much covers everything that I had to talk about with regard to, you know, your normal things. And next up we will talk about some knitting plans. Okay, so my knitting plans for this month have changed a little bit since I wrote my notes for the podcast episode, since Finish Miles was one of them, but it's since been finished. So I actually only have 2 planned things for this month, which is really me being extremely, like, what's the word I'm looking for? Realistic. Probably, yeah, realistic, because the month ahead is going to be a very busy one at work, and I'm really not going to have the time to like bang out tons of projects. So really I have 2 knitting goals, which one is to you know, get the bulk of the Saglan done. I'm not sure that I'm going to be able to finish it. It is due in early October, so I don't actually have to finish it this month. So I do want to at least get the bulk of the sweater done. And then I do want to finish my Vertices Unite probably this month, so that I have enough time at the beginning of October to get ready for Rhinebeck. And then I'll probably also work on the dress that I'll be making for my Rhinebeck outfit for this year. So those are my plans for the upcoming month. As I mentioned, my second video this month is going to be a journal on my test knitting process. And then after that, I will see you all in the next month with my regular podcast episode. And then I think I have 2 extra videos for October as opposed to just one. I usually put out these podcast episodes and then a bonus video each month. So I actually have 2 videos up my sleeve, if I can actually make them happen. Definitely you will see one, which is going to be my Rhinebeck recap video. And there goes the cat. So yeah, so definitely you'll see one video, which will be my Rhinebeck recap video for October, but I'm thinking of a second journal episode for October on making my outfit. So I'm really excited about that. I'm hoping that it works out. So I hope that you have enjoyed sitting with me. Let me know what you all are knitting up this month, and if you have any fun plans. If anyone is planning on going to Rhinebeck, let me know. You know, hopefully we can meet up. I am planning on going with some girlfriends, and we're going up on Sunday. And yeah, I hope that this video found you well, that you are enjoying the last bits of summer, or you enjoyed the last bits of summer since this video is going up in September, and that your September is off to a good start. I will leave you with a little bit of footage from the Frayed Knot, which is where I bought my Life in the Long Grass hinterland at the beginning of February, that I have not shared with you all, so you all can see the lovely, lovely shop that Jen has in Savannah. Otherwise, please feel free to do all the things. If you enjoyed this video, like, subscribe, hit the bell, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.